Hello, welcome one, welcome all. I've decided to do a mock draft, and to be honest with you, I've just gone completely off of the coaching decisions. It's up to Grant and Jackson to determine if this was a smart or bad pick. We'll see. So we're headed into the combine. This is how I looked at the board and came to decisions. Comment down below if you haven't already. Until, yeah, let's get it rolling. So, all right. Wells Mock 1.0. Welcome to the NFL draft, everyone. This is how we're rolling. The first pick, you have the Tennessee Titans. Travis Hunter. Just don't overthink it.
It's all just kind of what you prefer. I don't think there's like a clear 1-1 in this class. I think them taking Travis Hunter would probably rely on them trading for a quarterback. So take your pick. Could be Matt Stafford. I guess they could sign Darnold. There's a lot of potential paths to a different quarterback here, but I do think they will go into next season with a quarterback not named Will Levis. So I think if they sign someone else in free agency, this should be a smash. I think Travis Hunter makes a lot of sense. Abdul Carter, who I'm sure we'll touch on later, would also make a lot of sense, but kind of just what you prefer. I don't think you can go wrong.
100%. All right. With the next pick. Oh, wait. Wow. Oh, my gosh. There's a trade. There's a trade in my mock draft. Wow. All right. So, for what it's worth, it's a trade between the New England Patriots and the Cleveland Browns. They're swapping the second and fourth picks. And with the second pick in the NFL draft, Abdul Carter, the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, if he's not where what's his face is on the Titans, he's probably going to be either the next or to the Giants.
I think Vrabel loading up on the D-line makes a lot of sense there. I think that's probably the lean you went with here, which makes a lot of sense. I would be a little weary on, I guess, the Browns, if they trade back and see that a Hunter went 1, they realize that one of the quarterbacks would be on the board at 4, I guess, so they're comfortable making this move. But with Myles Garrett potentially on the move, Abdul Carter would make a lot of sense as the heir apparent on that D-line. So I think if, like, Cam Ward goes 1, I think the Browns have a pretty clear path to taking Abdul Carter. But I guess if number 1 goes how you predicted it, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I actually do like that one.
On to the next one. The New York Giants, Brad's franchise. Will they be saved or will they fall into doom and glory? They get my QB1 in the class. Cam Ward, University of Miami. Think he's the answer there. Excited to see what he can potentially do. Seems like the direction they would head. I doubt they'll take G&T there.
Definitely the QB1. Oh, yeah. I don't think it's particularly close. So
now the Browns. This one, well, we'll see how the crowd reacts. We're going with Will Campbell at number 4.
I think Browns fans would be pretty upset by this one, taking an interior lineman at 4. Played tackle in college. Seems like everyone is projecting him to move inside, given his height and kind of arm length and everything like that, which isn't the sexiest pick at 4. I expect him to excel at guard, but I think Browns fans would probably be a little bit let down if this is the direction things go. But we'll see. The offseason will make a lot of sense in terms of whether they're going to bring in a new quarterback or kind of what the deal is there. I do think a lot of teams drafting a quarterback top 5 this year could be a shaky decision, because I don't think any of these guys are going to be good enough to bring their teams completely away from the records they had last year. So you might be in a situation where you draft a dude top 5, and then you have a top 5 pick next year in a draft that has a lot more quarterbacks, and you're kind of in a weird position where you don't know if you have the guy or not. So I think taking a guard here could probably be the best decision for the franchise going forward, because they'd suck next year and you'd get a quarterback you're a little bit more confident in. So,
yeah. All right. So moving on to the next pick here, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to go with Mason Graham.
Like it.
Get a little bit of help on the defensive line there.
Yeah, the best interior prospect we've seen in quite some time. I think he'd be a great add to that D-line. You saw their D-line have some success last year, particularly on the edges. So bringing in a guy who can take some of that attention on the interior makes a lot of sense.
I like it.
Yeah, I second that.
Moving forward, we have Grant's team here, the Las Vegas Raiders. We're going to go with Ashton Janty.
Oh, God.
We're going to get things going. Pete Carroll's going to bring in Russell Wilson at QB. He's going to sign Rob Gronkowski off the waivers. We're going to run 2 tight end packages. We're going to get it going.
Grant doesn't approve.
I like taking a running back top 6. To me, it's got to be Bijan or like a dude that's making a difference in the open field and is going to be catching passes and kind of affecting multiple levels of the game. Genty's great. I think he'll thrive in an offense where they literally just need a workhorse back. I don't know if this is the offense for that. I'd be surprised. I think we will absolutely take a running back in this draft. It's just a deeper class, so I think there's value to take a starting level running back in round 2 or 3 or something. So I'd definitely be a little surprised by this, but I mean, he's a good player. It would be an exciting thing to watch. So
would this be like Brock Bowers for you last year?
Yeah, I mean, Brock was it was an interesting pick just because we'd taken a tight end in round 2 the year before, but it was clearly the best player available, so it made sense. In my fanship, I've been used to us reaching on like round 3 talent in round 1, so just taking the best player available and having it work out the way it did was great. So maybe we do that again here.
What do you think about taking a guy like Tetairoa to take some of the pressure off Brocky boy?
Myers? Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I would probably lean a receiver here over running back at pick 6. I think there's a high chance a corner goes as well to us here. So kind of a lot of possibilities. The offseason will clear up a lot of that. Like there's a world where a wide receiver gets traded to us or you sign one and then Ted becomes less valuable there. But we'll see. Now I think this is a fair prediction, I guess.
All right. I like it. On to the next one. The New York Jets. All right. So what do we expect the Jets to do before I scroll here?
I mean, I've seen some buzz towards like a safety and just kind of shoring up the secondary into like a guaranteed elite secondary. I think there's room for O-line. I mean, you got to think Devontae will probably leave if A-Rod's out of the way. So, I mean, even Tet is at play here. Tyler Warren, maybe.
All right. We're going to go with Armin Membo. Booster that offensive line just a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, the O-line struggled a lot this year. Whoever they bring in a quarterback is going to need some help being stood up or standing up throughout this year. I think their O-line really struggled, so whoever they bring in is going to need some help there.
What about the whole Hassan Reddick thing? He's out.
What's up?
Do we think Hassan Reddick will impact, like the Hassan Reddick debacle will impact who they pick up here?
Yeah, I don't know. That is a good call. I mean, he's probably out the door, but
yeah, 100% could easily play into that. All I'm doing is going off of what I saw from the coaches' things and what they're going to do. So throw out names that you like here as well.
What about the coaching moves? Landed you here?
It's just what I'm seeing of like who switched where. So it's like you'll see some people had new members that they essentially added. Like I want to say they added for the Jets both of the offensive line coaches from Rice specifically, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah, so that's how we ended up here. And then they had some defensive line switches too. But with that said, we moved to the next team.
Yeah, I think getting something in the trenches, O-line or D-line, makes a lot of sense. So I think that pick is super in play there.
They got to set the tone. The Carolina Panthers at pick number 8. They need to fix that run game a little bit. So they're going to take Jalen Walker. It was just awful last year. Anyone can run over them. Hopefully this is a step in the right direction. Is it a step in the right direction?
Should be. I mean, anything would help. Defense as a whole was pretty lackluster.
Fair enough. All right. On to the next one. The New Orleans Saints. I looked at their coaching thing, and I was just like, this is kind of interesting. They basically said scrap the whole entire thing. And typically, when you're scrapping the whole entire thing and starting from the bottom, if you will, there's one direction you typically start with, and that's Shedeur Sanders. New Orleans Saints draft a quarterback here. A little bit of a surprise, I feel like, to some people.
Yeah, I mean, they probably should draft a quarterback. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with Kellen Moore and talking about how he played against Derek Carr and all that. And he was like, I'm excited
to hold that
to coach Derek. He's a great player and all that. So depends how much you believe in that coach speak. I mean, he's not going to say he doesn't like him. Like, there's not really a situation where you're going to just blast your starting quarterback like that. So I don't think that necessarily means he's going to start. But yeah.
And I want to say Derek Carr was also not there or something like that when they did a meeting specifically for arriving with Kellen Moore. We will see how they work. But on to the next one here. We have the Bears. And they're going to go ahead and go with Josh Simmons at Ohio State. Fascinating as I built this, like the amount of Michigan and Ohio State players being drafted in the first round is crazy.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty spot-on pick here.
Next year.
Just because the Bears clearly need to do something better to protect Caleb Williams there. I think this is just a good option to do that.
All righty. On to the next one, the 49ers. Mike Green out of Marshall, added on to that defense a little bit for the linebacker position. For what it's worth, I'm not going to sit here and act like I've watched tape on every single one of these guys. I've just meshed together a bunch of mock drafts that I saw fit to kind of create an ADP list, if you will, to help me pick and choose how these players kind of go. And I'm really
I didn't know you were Will Johnson's biggest op.
Not yet. I think you might like where he goes, but we'll see. We'll see.
I'd be shocked if he's not top 10.
Well, you're not going to be happy. Dallas Cowboys, though, they decided that they kind of like what they got going on here, and then they take to Tyra, and it bolster that receiver room a little bit more. Let Dak go a little bit haywire.
Yeah, I think I've seen Genty and Tet flipped in a lot of mocks. Like you'll see Tet go to the Raiders, and you'll see Genty going to the Cowboys, which obviously makes a lot of sense. It'd be good for ticket sales and just kind of getting a new workhorse in there. I do like Tet. I think he's somewhat limited. The catch radius is good, but it's not quite what you'd expect from a guy his size. He kind of gives Quentin Johnson vibes. Whether that translates exactly in the NFL, I think he'll be a better pro than Quentin Johnson, but kind of similar. Tall dude, good after the catch, can run a lot of like rub routes and little shorter plays and kind of pop them off for more. Has good hands, just isn't quite the jump ball threat that you'd expect from a dude with his frame. But yeah,
right on. It's all going to depend on landing spot for him, but I think they'll add him in to hopefully expand this room, mainly as the best player available at that second in time.
Yeah.
But we've got Jackson's team next, the Miami Dolphins, with the old school logo here.
Love it.
We're going to go Luther Burden. A lot of people are really liking him. I'm not the biggest stan, but I think he could potentially work in Miami. I think they want another receiver. I think they're tired of Tyreek. I'm not confident he comes back. I'm not confident he's fully mentally in the game as well. So
yeah, if Tyreek's gone, this makes a lot of sense. He was a pretty much consensus top 10 pick coming into this season. Didn't have quite the season I think a lot of people expected him to have. I think the talent is still probably there. It'll depend a lot on how his combine goes or his pro day, whichever thing he's competing in.
Some say he should be the wide receiver one.
This landing spot makes sense. What?
Some say he should be the wide receiver one of the class.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ceiling's higher. I think the floor is probably lower, but
yeah,
either one is like a super, super elite prospect. Like, I don't think either of these guys would be going within the top 3 or 4 receivers from last class. So
I also think there's a high likelihood that the Dolphins just improve their pass protection with this one here, just because we're at risk of losing some guys on the line. Tua has had like 15 concussions. You're right about the Tyreek thing, but he did say he is committed. So I could definitely see us going O-line here as well.
100%. 100%. All right. On to the next one. We have the Indianapolis Colts, and we're going to take Will Johnson. They need most of that secondary. That seems to be what they're kind of going with the coaching-wise, or at least trying to find an answer for coaching-wise. So,
I mean, the fit makes a ton of sense in Indy. Need a lockdown boundary corner. I don't know if he's going to get to 14, but there's a world where maybe they trade up or whatever. But, I mean, as lockdown of a corner as you can find, I think he's kind of fading a little bit down draft boards, but I see him going top 10. Struggled with a turf toe injury this year, didn't play a ton, but I think as long as his physical checks out and you don't have any long-term injury concerns, he was healthy throughout the rest of his career. But his sophomore year tape was as elite as you could find. He's very locked down. I think he'll fit in wherever.
Do you think there's a world where he goes to the Jags at the 5th pick or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of in play anywhere from 5 to 10. It just depends on best player available in situations like that. I mean, I don't see like the Jets taking him, but I think any other of those teams, like he's kind of in play. He's a pretty easy kind of like set it and forget it. Like if your team struggled against pass defense, he's a guy you can kind of just throw up against anyone. So
I like it. Sounds like he could be the number 1 corner in the class, depending upon what Travis Hunter does. All right, the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to go with Derek Harmon.
That is a horrendous jersey. Yeah, maybe the worst ever. I don't know who put that up in like Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, that's bad.
Not ideal.
That's like some wannabe like Oregon Ducks vibes gone completely wrong.
It's tough, yeah.
It's not ideal look for him, but it doesn't sound like it could be the worst fit.
Yeah, terrible pick, Wells.
Fair enough. Cardinals, we've got another Michigander here, Kenneth Grant. What do we think here, Grant?
Makes sense. Their interior was not great. I think their defense was a little bit better than people thought going into last year. Kenneth Grant fills a need in run protection, also can apply a bit of pressure, but is more helpful in the run game, which last year the Cardinals definitely ran the ball a little bit more than people thought. So if they want to be in some kind of slugfest type of games, Kenneth Grant will help fill the hole on the defensive side and kind of prevent some explosive plays from other teams. So I like it.
All right, Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to go with Shamar Stewart. Could not find a good picture of him, so you get his ESPN profile pic. Smiling.
Pretty good picture.
I feel like it's a better picture than most of the people we had on here. Definitely better than this one.
This dude's got to be from Broward.
Yeah. I could see like Mobile or like South Carolina too.
Yeah. Definitely from the South.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. I think there's no world where they don't go defense with this pick. I think I've seen some mocks of Mikael Williams here, but I would be shocked if it's not a defensive player given how things turned out last year. I think Trey Hendrickson has kind of had some buzz on potentially getting moved, and then you got to deal with the T. Higgins situation. So filling in some hole on defense makes a lot of sense. So throwing in a defensive end here, I think, makes a ton of sense.
Like it. All right. On to the next one, the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to go with Tyler Booker out of Alabama. Help improve that offensive line play. That was just beyond awful this past year.
I like it. Good interior guy. I think if you like Will Campbell's going in as a tackle, will be a guard. I think he projects as a better guard than we are seeing here. But I think in terms of just a pure guard, this is probably the best one in the class. So filling in need with a stud in that position. I think there's a lot of kind of rhetoric about not taking a guard this early because they're kind of replaceable. You usually see tackles here. But it's been a significant issue for the Seahawks, so I like the fit a lot.
Right on. All right. On to the next one. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So for the people in Gasparilla, we're going to go with Walter Nolan on the defensive line. Hopefully that'll help them out. Will it? We'll find out.
I mean, has had some issues throughout his career, was the #1 prospect in the country coming out of high school. Started at A&M, transferred to Ole Miss with that crew of transfers that came in for this season. Was successful. The talent is clearly there. Seemed to be some concerns on kind of effort and how much he's really improved since he's been in college. But this deep in the draft, you're taking a guy who has unlimited talent pretty much, could invert in and play tackle, could also potentially play end depending on scheme and stuff. So checks out to me.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple holes on Tampa Bay that they might need to fill with free agency that aren't there, like Chris Godwin, Levante at linebacker, but
100%. All right. On to the next one here. The Denver Broncos. They're going to fill their Joker role with Tyler Warren. Some people love him. Some people hate him. But they need a tight end. Is this the right one, though?
I can see this. And I feel like he's probably the first to go in this class.
Yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense. He's not the greatest pass blocker in the world, but if you think that their O-line was good enough this year and he doesn't need to help a ton in that area, can kind of just hedge a little bit, chip block a little bit, and then get out on his routes. It's definitely an effective target. I don't think he's quite the level that Bowers was last year, potentially, in terms of catching the ball and doing stuff with it after the catch, but somewhat close. Is an explosive playmaker, is a tough guy to get down, is constantly breaking tackles. So feels like another weapon in a team that was kind of lacking a primary target. So checks out to me.
Stop sleeping on Greg Dulcich.
He's over in New York now, man. It's a wild one for him.
Yeah.
All right.
Greg.
Pittsburgh Steelers. Who do we have them taking? Malachi Starks.
Okay. Makes sense. I think this will be either a corner or a receiver. So went the corner route. Checks out to me, or I guess a safety. But we saw Minka struggle a bit last year. Secondary in general seems like it gave up a lot of explosive plays. So get a good athlete, ball hawking safety there who can kind of potentially make some explosive plays for a defense that has been used to seeing explosive plays and turnovers for quite some time. Last year kind of struggled with that a little bit. So adding some explosion back in the defense is a good and welcome to add, I think.
All right. On to the next one here. The Chargers with an old school logo themselves. Nick Amenwari.
Not super familiar with his game, to be honest.
All right. Just another
from South Carolina, right?
You're going to get close to losing my my insight here too into the deeper picks.
I think he's supposed to fly at the combine, which could mean he skyrockets even higher than this pick here at 22. We'll see. I'm excited to check out this combine, but definitely a ball hawk, good hand skills. Definitely a welcome to add to this defense, though, as well. Chargers definitely struggled giving up some big plays. I think you'll either see something in the secondary or a wide receiver, kind of like what we said with the Steelers. So. All
right. On to the next one. The Green Bay Packers. Michael Williams. This is not a good picture of him.
Yeah, he looks like he's moving in slow motion.
Why does it look like he's wearing like sweatpants?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not.
I think the combine will be huge for him. I think if he has a good combine, there's a chance he's even like a top 10 pick. Had an ankle injury this year, kind of slowed down his production, only 5 sacks, but was kind of battling that ankle injury throughout the season. I think this is a candidate to go to the Bengals potentially, like we said a little earlier, but I think you could see a ton of speed in the combine and that could really skyrocket him up the boards a bit. So like the prospect. It's a good kind of upside swing as well.
All right. On to the next one. The Vikings with Skull Chance, James Pierce Jr. Are we familiar?
What do you like about him here?
Just was the highest kind of cumulative ranked guy that plugged in theory. Best player overall, essentially. So
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
kind of
I
our
could see
thoughts
that.
there. Not
Do you, I
them
mean,
really.
do you think? I mean, Minnesota probably doesn't need to worry about the O line too much this offseason, right?
I
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
really
you should
know
get
what they
Darisaw back, which was kind of their
focus
big
on.
struggle towards the end there. I mean, an undersized D end here to pair up with the rest of that D line. Their defense is very good this year, so I think taking a rotational guy who could potentially add a lot on passing downs, also some versatility, which that defense liked to do a lot of with sending their ends kind of in coverage, dropping him back in zone, things like that. He could even pick up on tight ends in certain sets. Good athlete, makes sense.
All right. My Texans,
Oh,
Kelvin Banks Jr. We're picking up another offensive lineman.
yeah.
Think that was part of the downfall for us
System
this year.
play.
Like we want Egbuka. Chance he falls or something. But ultimately, we will see. We will see.
Yeah, y'all gave
Yeah,
up a
tackle
bunch of
makes no
sacks.
sense. I like it.
Los Angeles Rams, Colston Loveland.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Cup on the move gives you another guy who can kind of operate in those slot type areas. Can also line up in traditional tight end sets attached to the line, but you'll see him lined up in the slot as well a ton. Whether that be because at Michigan there was not a dominant wide receiver, he was the primary target, so definitely got lined up in more wide receiver sets than you'll probably see in the pros. But it's good for him to have some of that experience. Yeah, great athlete, good hands, good after the catch. Will be another target for whoever's playing quarterback for the Rams.
100%.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. The Ravens, Jackson's other team. We have them going with Siobhan Revel Jr. I want to say he was didn't he have an injury or something?
I'm not sure.
What position he play?
Let's see here. He is a cornerback, so safety.
Oh yeah, that's what I was about to say. If I had to guess just a position for the Ravens to draft.
If I remember correctly, this guy was supposed to be the number one corner and then got injured. I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head, but that's what the ranks kind of led me towards here. But happy to hear that you
can never have too many corners in that defense, or just explosive athletes that can kind of play in hybrid slots. This defense got way better once Kyle Hamilton moved back to the free safety, strong safety slot, was kind of operating in the box a lot. And this is an athlete that you could mess around with throwing him in the box more. So they definitely lacked another guy in the box once Kyle Hamilton moved back. So taking a shot on an athlete where many of places and positions you could plug him into makes a lot of sense, I think.
All right. On to the next one here. We have the Detroit Lions with Josh Connerly Jr., man out of Oregon. Build up that offensive line some more.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably lean some potential linebacker help or off-ball linebacker, maybe some pass rush help. The injuries kind of decimated them, so it's hard to see exactly what that defense looked like healthy. There's a chance that they're just set, and with everyone back, that defense is very good. The O-line is pretty fantastic. I don't know if it needs a ton of help. Maybe you're just prepping for the future of contracts you're going to have to pay and stuff like that. So I guess you can never have too many rotational pieces with the injuries they had last year. So just kind of building up the depth. It was hard to see exactly what that defense is going to look like down the stretch with everyone healthy. So hard to project.
Good to note. On to the next one, the Washington Commanders, probably where we get a little bit spicy. Caleb Johnson.
Okay.
I think they could improve their running back room. I don't think Brian Robinson is really kind of showing out to be that guy for them. I think they want something with a little more. This is a strong class. This is the guy I'm the highest on next to J&T. I think they build on there.
A true workhorse. I think his pro day / combine will do a lot for his draft stock. I don't expect him to run a crazy time, so he feels like a guy you could probably get in the second round. But if he's a player they like a lot, it's a positional need. Their running back room, as a committee, I think did a fair job, but just no elite guy that you trusted to get those kind of intermediate yards and stuff. So I like the fit for sure. I think you could see receiver here too, for sure, but it just depends on kind of how free agency stacks out. Like if you see them go trade for a T. Higgins or something, they're not going to draft a wide receiver. So we'll see.
All right. On to our 30th pick here with the Buffalo Bills. We have, did I go too far? No, I didn't. Jihad Campbell. Bolster up the linebacking room a little bit further.
Yeah. Linebacker core was solid when healthy, but you saw Matt Milano and Dude struggle a ton with injuries throughout the season. So just kind of stacking up on another player that could potentially help. Was good against the pass rush as well in blitzes, had 5 sacks. Good tackler, makes a ton of sense.
Right on. All right. 31, Kansas City Chiefs. Build up that secondary a little bit more with Jahdae Barron. Yeah.
Like it.
I mean, these teams are pretty complete at this point, so we'll keep going.
Corner makes sense.
Yeah. Eagles went with Matthew Golden.
Okay.
You could put Igbuka.
So do you not have a Igbuka going first round?
I think he could go first easily. Like
that would be surprising to me. I mean, I would probably have him going 21 to Pittsburgh, maybe. I think there's a decent chance he's the best receiver in the class. Really good route runner and was always overshadowed because he was never the number 1 in his own offense. But that's not anything about him. It's more just because he's had a generational, like, top 5 pick receiver next to him at all points. Went from having like Garrett Wilson and stuff when he was a freshman and Olave, and then last year had Marvin Harrison, this year at Jeremiah Smith. So he's just constantly benefited from having a generational talent next to him. You could say that probably leads him open more because teams are shading towards the other side of the field, but has really good hands, really good route runner. Not like some crazy athlete, but everything else is super developed. So I like Igbuka, but Golden, you're getting the deep play threat that, I mean, they kind of lacked. I think having a guy you could strictly just throw the ball up to makes a lot of sense. Not a ton of holes on the Eagles team in general, so it's hard to kind of nitpick and get too crazy with things. I think maybe like linebacker would make sense if one falls to them, but not a lot of holes, so you're kind of just reaching at straws.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a bit of a long one. Appreciate you guys tagging along and help me out with this. That's kind of initial thoughts of my first mock draft here. We will see how it unfolds. We have the combine in a few days here, so that will be exciting. And maybe when this is released, the combine will be running for all we know.
Yeah, so, we'll do an update at post-combine.
Yeah, with some more thoughts. Perhaps we'll even do another mock draft on top of that, but with Jackson and Grant filling in the holes so we can kind of see how it should shape out. All right.
Big up.
Appreciate you all. If you haven't already, subscribe. And until next time, talk to you later. Peace now.
Peace.